So today, the goal of this talk, it actually came up from a comment, an email that I got from one of our Paper Path members. And the Paper Path member had mentioned that it was a feedback about the Paper Path. And she had mentioned that before joining the Paper Path, she tried to make everything perfect and it all kind of got in the way for her and she just never seemed to get anything done. It seemed to be a constant trying to get things done. And that perfection was holding her back from actually completing things in a reasonable time or at all. So, with the paper path, one of the things that she learned was how to take things one step at a time and how to focus on getting it done, not necessarily making it pretty. So that's what I wanted to talk about because that sparked that thought for me. Hey, Rita, good to see you. Nice day today from Pennsylvania. It must be nice up there. So I wanted to kind of go deeper into the focusing on done, not pretty, as far as any of our organizing goes, because we can all easily fall into that trap, can't we? Hey, Mary, good to see you. Nice to have you here. Um, I know that with organizing, it's really tempting to try to make things perfect. It feels so good, right? To feel like you are in control of a space and to look at your space and see, if it's your pantry, to see all those mason jars perfectly labeled with little chalkboard stickers and filled with beans, and to look at your filing cabinet and see everything is filed and all of the folders, there's 100 folders all perfectly labeled, everything in its folder. And that is, of course, always our goal, right? And that's what all of the pictures show us in the magazines and on the TV shows about organizing. It's always about this really perfect picture of organizing. But the problem is that's like step 20. Because in order to get to that perfect picture, usually there are a lot of ugly starting steps that start to get a little bit better and better, but the beginning of those pictures, they're not always that pretty, but they are done and they're useful. And that's kind of the part of organizing that all of the TV shows and the magazines leave out. They leave out the pictures of creating the system so it's actually done and functioning before you then work on making it perfect. And it gives us this false sense of feeling like organizing has to look perfect in order to be organized or to be successful or to be proud of it. Um, but no, I'm here to tell you the goal is not for it to be perfect. The goal is not even for it to be pretty at first, especially if you have a space that's overwhelming at first. So if you have a ton of papers that need to be filed and put away, or if you have that entire junk room, that guest room that becomes the catch-all, at first it's not going to be pretty when you first get it organized, and that's not the goal. The goal is not to make it perfect and labeled and pretty when you first organize. The goal of that first pass is to make it functional and to get it done. And one example of that is within the paper path, we talk about our onion method, and we talk about how when you're setting up something like a file cabinet, you want to, for your first pass at setting up your file cabinet, try not to do the 100 different file folders, each with individual labels, and each paper has its own file folder practically. Don't do a ton of different file folders. That's going to take way too long to set up, and it'll be very hard to maintain, and it's very hard to file things the first time if you've got a lot of papers to file. It's hard for that first filing to file into so many different choices. So in the paper path, we go really deep into the onion method and how to simplify filing and sorting your papers that way. But that's the basic premise, is you want to reduce the number of folders that you're filing into and the number of categories, and make them much broader categories so that you can actually get it done, so that you can get the papers filed into a folder that they do belong in, and get all papers filed. Now, once you have all of your papers filed into these much broader categories in your filing cabinet, then at that point, when you are finally done filing your papers and then everything is filed and it's been sorted through, there's nothing that needs to be gone through anymore, that's when you can go back for that second pass and start to make it pretty. Start to make it what you want it to be. I mean, it's not have to be ugly when it's got those broad categories. That's not the goal either. We don't aim for ugly, but it might not be the perfect filing cabinet that you want, as far as you might not have all of the folder labels that you want. Maybe the categories are much broader than you would prefer, and you would like to have, instead of just banking, you would like to have each bank account have a file folder. Well, that first pass, that's not when you're setting up the file folder for each bank account. The first pass is when you're putting in all the bank account information into a folder called banking. And then once everything has been filed like that, that's when you go through and then you can do the second pass, because it's going to be very easy to then create smaller subcategories, smaller folders from those broad categories, because then they're all in banking. Then it's simply adding a folder per bank account and pulling them out into those bank accounts. But if you were to try to do that from the very beginning, then that would take forever and you would probably not finish. You would feel much more frustrated. It would use a whole lot more brain power than you really have. Um, and most likely you would either give up, or it would take so long that the project would not be completed in a reasonable amount of time. So, your first pass with organizing, just remember that that first pass, I call it the rough first draft of organizing. That first draft of organizing your pantry or your file cabinet or your guest room, it's not about making everything beautiful, finding the perfect labels, finding the perfect containers. The first pass is about figuring out what's going to function best for you. So, for example, maybe in a pantry, maybe as you're organizing that, you might not have the perfect containers yet. And quite frankly, I say don't buy the containers until you've already sorted out and categorized what you have. So you're going to categorize what you have first. Figure out, okay, how much do you have of canned goods? Maybe if you're going to separate out vegetables um, and, fruits and meals in a can. Maybe if you're going to do all those, then you're going to figure out how much that you generally have for each category. And that's when you would put them in bins. So hopefully that makes sense. That's when you buy your official bins. But until you figure out how much you normally have, until you've tried out placement of everything, placing, a lot of times you use cardboard boxes or temporary bins, and just grab whatever bins you have, place them in the areas you think that you want them to go, and then work with them for a little bit. Try them out for a little bit, move things around, see what's working for you. And then you can adjust things much easier if you've not finalized everything and made it pretty. Then once you've got the system working, that's when you can find bins that work better for you, because now you know what you need from your bins. Now you know, oh, well, having a lid on that's going to be a little bit more difficult, so I'm going to pick one without a lid. Or now you know, oh, I actually need a larger bin for this space because what I thought I needed would have been too small. And then once you found the bins that you really enjoy and those work for you, that's when you can add the nice labels. I do say don't try to keep everything perfect though, because that's hard for your family to keep up and you're just going to be frustrated. So, unless everybody in the family loves keeping things perfect, then that's just a fight that's not worth picking. And making sure that it stays nice is the most important part. So, hey, Margie. Margie says, I can't get you live. Well, you're live right now with me. So, I'm not sure what trouble you're having. Hopefully, maybe if you can explain your trouble a little bit better to me, then I can help you out. But we are live right now, and I see your comment on the screen, which is fantastic. I know that there's tech issues today. I'm not sure why. Hopefully, that gets fixed soon. So, let's see if I'm going to check it out for you right now, Margie, and see if I can get it to pull up. But Should pull up just fine. Yep, there we go. We are live. Perfect. Okay. I was a little bit worried there. If you have any questions, then let me know. These Thursday talks, with the Thursday talks, I'm going to try to have some comment or some topics ahead of time so that you know a little bit about what we're talking about. Hopefully, the technology will work better for us in the long run. It seems like the internet is just having one of its days. Hey, Joanne, how are you? Good to see you. So I'm not going to talk for too long today just because it does seem like we've got a much slower internet connection today and it's just being a little wonky on me. But I'm so glad to have you here. You will see, like I mentioned, the Thursday talks going to have a bit of a topic for each day. I will try to make sure to announce what that topic is. And it's always pretty much based on comments and emails that I get from you. So if there's anything that you wanted to hear me talk about, then please write it in a comment, send me an email, and that's where I pull some of these topics from. It's from you because you are what's most important to me, and I absolutely love this time with you. Well, I'm going to keep it short and sweet today. I love you so much. Next week, I will be back with a bit of a longer Thursday Live. Tonight is the last chance to register, or not just to register. Right now is the last chance to register for tonight's Important Papers workshop. Now, the Important Papers workshop, you might need to pause the video and write that down. And I think that it might be in the links in the description of this video. I'm not positive, but the Important Papers workshop is a free workshop that's 1 hour long. And the last one is this evening. And after tonight, Thursday, the 23rd at 6 p.m., Thursday, September 23rd, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. After that one starts, it's not going to be available again until sometime next year. I'm not sure when next year. So if you do want to learn how to get all of your most important papers organized and all that important data in one place, easy to grab, easy to get your hands on, make sure to register for the Important Papers workshop tonight. If you can't attend live, that's okay. You will get a limited time replay. The replay will be available for 4 days after the workshop ends. So make sure to register. It's the last chance for this year. But other than that, I'm just happy to have you here. I love seeing you. Hey, Socorito, good to see you again. It's been a little bit since I've seen you. Welcome, welcome. So I'm wrapping this one up a little bit early because tech issues are just a little bit rough, but that's okay. I'm excited to have you here, and I will see you very soon, beautiful. If you're a Pathfinder, I'll see you over in the Facebook Campfire group at noon. I love you. Goodbye, sweetheart.